The architecture of becoming unshakable. Introduction. The blueprint of inner stability. There comes a moment in every awakening where you realize the world will not slow down for you. Life will not pause. People will not always soften. Chaos will not rearrange itself to match your healing timeline. And yet, you're still expected to stand. You're still expected to show up. You're still expected to live, to love, to make decisions, to carry responsibilities. Most people try to survive this by becoming harder, colder, less trusting, less open. They confuse being unshakable with being unreachable. But true strength, the kind that is sovereign, spiritual, and deeply alive, doesn't come from shutting down your heart. It comes from building an inner architecture that nothing outside of you can collapse. Being unshakable isn't about becoming numb. It's about becoming internally fortified. It's about understanding the mechanics of your emotions, the language of your energy, and the architecture of your identity so deeply that life stops happening to you and begins responding to you. You're not here to learn how to cope. You're here to awaken to the truth that stability is something you can create, frequency is something you can choose, and peace is something you can live in, even when the outside world is loud. This audiobook is not about perfection. It's about becoming anchored, rooted, clear, energetically mature, emotionally intelligent, spiritually sovereign. It's about learning the mechanics of how to stay centered. Whether someone disappoints you, rejects you, misunderstands you, lies to you, betrays you, or abandons you. Because this is the real world. You cannot control people. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control the vibration you choose to live from. This is the architecture of becoming unshakable, understanding your emotional wiring, learning the laws of your energetic field, regulating your internal rhythm, aligning your identity with your highest consciousness, and choosing responses that maintain your power rather than leak it. This is spiritual work, this is psychological work, this is energetic work, and this is life work. And now we begin the journey of building yourself from the inside out. Let's move into chapter 1, where we lay the foundation of emotional architecture, the part of you that reacts first and reveals most of your unconscious patterns. Chapter 1. The foundations of emotional architecture. Every person you meet carries an emotional structure, a blueprint formed long before adulthood ever began. Your emotional architecture is shaped by how you were comforted or ignored, how you were spoken to or silenced, what you were allowed to express, how conflict was handled in your home, whether your needs were met or dismissed, whether love felt safe or unpredictable. Emotional reactions are not random. They are patterns rehearsed over years, and your body remembers what your mind has long forgotten. When you find yourself triggered, overwhelmed, shutting down, overthinking, or panicking, you're not failing. Your nervous system is simply repeating what it learned in environments where you had no power. To become unshakable, you must learn the architecture of your emotional system, because you cannot master what you cannot name. You cannot heal what you cannot see. You cannot change what you do not understand. Let's break down what emotional maturity really means. 1. Emotional awareness. Recognizing your internal weather patterns. You cannot control emotions, but you can learn to read them. Emotion is not the enemy. Emotion is information. Anxiety means your mind is in the future. Sadness means you are processing loss or unmet expectations. Anger means a boundary is being violated. Numbness means your system is overwhelmed. Irritation means your space or energy is overcrowded. Most people shame themselves for emotional responses when they should be listening to them. Emotion becomes dangerous only when it becomes unconscious. The moment you notice what you feel, you regain the first layer of power. 2. Emotional literacy, giving language to what your body feels. When you can name an emotion, you can negotiate with it. Most people use 3 words to describe their entire emotional world: fine, tired, stressed. But emotional mastery requires clarity. Instead of saying I'm overwhelmed, learn to identify I'm mentally overloaded. I'm emotionally overstimulated. I'm carrying too many responsibilities. I'm experiencing emotional abandonment triggers. Precision leads to transformation. 3. Emotional grounding, choosing response over reaction. Emotion is the spark. Your response is the flame you choose to build. Being unshakable doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't allow feelings to build your future. This is where grounded spirituality meets psychological power. You can feel triggered and still respond wisely. You can feel angry and still choose dignity. You can feel abandoned and still not chase. You can feel rejected and still honor your worth. This is not emotional suppression. It's emotional stewardship. The ability to hold your emotions without letting them run your life. 4th, emotional truth, facing what your reactions try to hide. Your reactions reveal where you're unhealed. If you shut down emotionally, you fear being too much. If you over-explain, you fear being misunderstood. If you chase validation, you fear abandonment. If you overperform, you fear inadequacy. If you avoid conflict, you fear rejection. Your emotional truth is not your weakness, it's your roadmap. You cannot become unshakable until you stop lying to yourself. Not lying about your hurt, not lying about your needs, not lying about your patterns, not lying about your tolerance levels. Unshakable people are not perfect. They are self-aware. 5. Emotional alignment, choosing what regulates your nervous system. Your stability depends on your rituals. Ask yourself, what activities drain me? What people shake me? What environments overstimulate me? What conversations destabilize me? What habits weaken my energy? What lifestyle choices keep me reactive? And equally, what restores me? What anchors me? What returns me to myself? What expands my energy? Unshakable people don't rely on motivation. They rely on alignment. They know the conditions that keep them strong. They know the patterns that weaken them, and they choose intentionally. Now that your emotional foundation is clear, we are going to move deeper into the energetic mechanics behind why you react the way you do, and how to shift your vibration so that life stops shaking you from the outside. Let's move into chapter 2, where we explore the architecture of energy, frequency, and vibrational identity. Chapter 2, the energetic blueprint of alignment. If emotion is the language of the body, energy is the language of your consciousness. Becoming unshakable requires more than emotional intelligence. It requires energetic intelligence, because every person, every place, every thought, every interaction has a frequency, and your life is not responding to your personality. Your life is responding to your vibration. Let's break down the mechanics of your energetic architecture. 1. Your vibration is shaped by 2 forces, state and identity. State equals what you feel right now. Temporary reactive shifting. Identity equals what you believe you are. Stable, powerful, magnetic. Most people try to change their life by changing their state, never realizing the true power lies in changing their identity. You become unshakable when your identity becomes grounded in, I am safe, I am worthy, I am guided, I am enough, I am sovereign, I am aligned with truth. Identity stabilizes what emotion destabilizes. 2. The law of resonance. You attract what you embody. This is not theory. This is energetic physics. You do not attract what you want, what you beg for, what you chase, what you fear losing. You attract what you consistently vibrate. If your vibration is built on scarcity, anxiety, abandonment, self-doubt, shame, overthinking, hyper-independence, people-pleasing, your life will continue mirroring those patterns, not as punishment, but as feedback. Once you shift the vibration behind your choices, your life must shift in response. 3. The energetic leak points, where your power drains. All unshakable people have learned how to close these leak points. Explaining yourself emotionally, seeking validation, overperforming, ignoring intuition, trying to change people, forcing timelines, holding on to relationships out of fear, people pleasing to avoid conflict, carrying responsibilities that aren't yours. You become unshakable when you stop leaking energy into situations you cannot control. 4. Identity calibration. Choosing who you are before life chooses for you. Your vibration stabilizes the moment you declare, I decide who I am. Not my triggers, not my past, not my fear. Calibrating your identity means choosing the tone of your day, choosing the boundaries of your energy, choosing the quality of your relationships, choosing the state you return to, choosing how you will respond, choosing your self-definition. When you decide who you are, life stops shaking you because your identity anchors your frequency. 5. Practical energetic sovereignty. Anchoring your field. Here are real grounded ways to stabilize your vibration. A. Reduce energetic noise. Too much stimulation opens your field. Choose quieter digital environments, slower mornings, intentional conversations. B. Stop performing emotional labor. You're not responsible for fixing how others feel. C. Withdraw from draining dynamics. If your energy collapses around someone, don't negotiate with that feeling. Honor it. D. Build energetic recovery time. You can't run your nervous system like a machine and expect to remain stable. E. Reclaim your internal authority. Ask yourself, who do I become when I'm not trying to be liked? That is the truest, most powerful you. Now that you understand emotional architecture and energetic mechanics, we're ready for the next layer. How do you become someone who cannot be shaken by loss, rejection, uncertainty, pressure, or change? Let's move into chapter 3, where we build the identity of an unshakable being. Chapter 3. The identity of the unshakable self. At the highest level of consciousness, unshakability isn't a skill. It's an identity. It's who you become. Because when your identity stabilizes, your reaction stabilizes, your vibration stabilizes, your decisions stabilize, your life stabilizes, everything begins with identity. 1. Identity determines your emotional thresholds. Two people can experience the same event. One collapses, the other expands. The difference isn't personality, it's identity. Identity asks, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe I deserve? What do I believe I can handle? What do I believe about my worth? What do I believe about my future? When your identity is rooted in fear, you live in survival mode. When your identity is rooted in truth, you become unshakable. 2. The unshakable. Identity has 5 pillars. Pillar 1, self-belonging. You stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable. You choose yourself first without guilt. Pillar 2, emotional groundedness. You feel deeply, but you don't drown. You respond rather than react. Pillar 3, energetic sovereignty. You no longer negotiate your intuition. You no longer let people's reactions dictate your self-worth. Pillar 4, boundary maturity. You protect your peace without apology. You say no without explaining. You no longer collapse to avoid conflict. Pillar 5, spiritual anchoring. You trust your path even when the evidence hasn't arrived. You walk with your higher self, not your fear. These 5 pillars form the core structure of an unshakable being. 3. Rewriting the identity, shifting who you believe you are. To become unshakable, you must confront the identities you inherited. I'm hard to love. I have to earn acceptance. I can't upset people. I must prove myself. I always get abandoned. My emotions are too much. I'm safer when I don't need anyone. These identities weaken your architecture. Your new identity is not born from affirmations, it's born from alignment. Ask yourself, who am I when I'm not operating from fear? That is your true identity. 4. Real life scenarios, how the unshakable respond. Scenario 1. Someone pulls away. The reactive identity chases. The unshakable identity observes, recalibrates, and maintains self-worth. Scenario 2. You feel misunderstood. The reactive identity over-explains. The unshakable identity clarifies once, then stays grounded. Scenario 3. An opportunity falls through. The reactive identity spirals. The unshakable identity says, if it's mine, I cannot lose it. Scenario 4. Conflict arises. The reactive identity avoids or explodes. The unshakable identity communicates cleanly. Scenario 5. Loneliness hits. The reactive identity attaches to the wrong people. The unshakable identity nurtures self-connection. This is what inner architecture looks like when lived. 5. The sovereignty practice. Choosing internal authority. Here is the single most powerful identity shift. I no longer need the world to behave a certain way for me to remain grounded. This is spiritual liberation. This is emotional maturity. This is energetic freedom. When you live from sovereignty, people's inconsistencies don't destabilize you. Circumstances don't define your worth. Uncertainty doesn't trigger panic. Conflict doesn't collapse your peace. Rejection doesn't shape your identity. Loss doesn't dismantle your self-trust. You become the source of your stability. Now that your emotional foundation, energetic mechanics, and identity structure are established, we're ready to move into deeper layers of unshakability. Boundaries, detachment, self-trust, spiritual anchoring, vibrational congruence. Chapter 4. Boundary maturity. Now that your emotional foundation, energetic mechanics, and identity structure are strong, we enter one of the most misunderstood yet most life-altering pillars of becoming unshakable: boundary maturity. Boundaries are not ultimatums, they are not punishments, they are not threats, negotiations, or emotional weapons. Boundaries are architecture, they are the invisible walls that protect the structure of your inner world. They determine what enters, what exits, what stays, and what never gains access again. Most people set boundaries from exhaustion, from pain, from disappointment, from "I can't do this anymore." But boundary maturity is different. Boundary maturity is when boundaries stop being reactions and become identity. It's when you no longer create rules because someone hurt you. You create rules because you've evolved. It's when your no isn't defensive, it's directive. It's when your yes isn't people-pleasing, it's alignment. Let's break down the architecture of boundary maturity so deeply that your life begins reorganizing itself around your self-respect. 1. The shift from protection to precision. In your earlier healing, boundaries function as protection. You're trying not to be hurt again. You're preventing repeat experiences. You're avoiding situations where your inner child feels exposed. But once you evolve emotionally and energetically, your boundaries shift into something more refined: precision. You're not avoiding pain. You're choosing alignment. You're not preventing harm. You're preserving your frequency. You're not shielding yourself. You're designing your reality. This is the highest form of boundary evolution. You no longer wait for someone to violate your peace before correcting your environment. Your clarity creates the boundary before the boundary is needed. Unshakable people do not react to chaos. They architect their lives to prevent unnecessary exposure to it. 2. The 4 pillars of boundary maturity. To become someone who cannot be shaken by guilt, pressure, manipulation, or emotional noise, your boundaries must evolve through 4 pillars: self-knowledge, energetic clarity, emotional neutrality, and consistent action. Self-knowledge, knowing what your energy is for. You cannot protect anything you haven't defined. Boundary confusion comes from energetic confusion, not knowing what you value, what you need, what nourishes you, and what destabilizes you. Most people only know what hurts them, but boundary maturity requires knowing what supports you. Ask yourself, what kind of relationships feel safe for my nervous system? What kind of communication aligns with my truth? What kind of behavior reflects respect? What emotional standards maintain my stability? What patterns collapse my energy? What kind of love allows me to stay grounded? That clarity becomes the blueprint. Without self-knowledge, boundaries feel like conflict. With self-knowledge, boundaries feel like truth. Energetic clarity, the frequency that teaches the world how to treat you. Your boundaries begin in your energy, not in your words. When your vibration carries self-respect, people feel it. They sense where they can step and where the ground becomes sacred. Energetic clarity shows up in your presence. You take your time to respond. You choose your engagements intentionally. You're not easily guilt-tripped. You don't over-explain. You don't emotionally chase. You leave when your spirit whispers enough. Boundary maturity is energetic authority, and energetic authority is silent, but unmistakable. Emotional neutrality, the end of overwhelm. The strongest boundaries are not emotional, they are neutral. Neutrality doesn't mean detachment, it means stability. It means you can say no without anxiety, walk away without shaking, decline without guilt, maintain distance without shame, choose yourself without conflict, and observe someone's reaction without absorbing it. Emotional neutrality is a regulated nervous system. It is the quiet power behind all mature boundaries. Consistent action, where most people break their own boundaries. A boundary is not real until it becomes behavior. until you leave the conversation at the first sign of disrespect, until you end repeated patterns, until you stop rescuing people who drain you, until you say no without backtracking, until you honor your limits even when you're tempted to betray them. Boundary maturity is when your actions match your standards, always. 3. Access, the most important boundary of all. Boundary maturity is not only about behavior, it is about access. Who gets your time? Who gets your presence? Who gets your emotional labor? Who gets your tenderness? Who gets your softness? Who gets your availability? Who gets your spirit? Access is the highest currency in your life, and boundary maturity requires investing it wisely. Unshakable people are not hard to access because they're guarded. They're hard to access because they're intentional. Your energy is sacred. Not everyone earns proximity. 4. Quiet consequences, the end of verbal boundaries. Mature boundaries don't require lectures, they require action. Not "if you do this again," not "I'm tired of this," not "you need to understand." Boundary maturity is silent. You step back, you minimize access, you stop offering energy, you stop overgiving, you stop repeating yourself, you stop carrying what isn't yours. Quiet consequences speak louder than emotional explanations. 5. The nervous system of a boundaried person. Being around someone with boundary maturity feels like stability, clarity, predictability, calm, self-respect, emotional intelligence. They do not shrink, they do not chase, they do not collapse, they do not overgive, they do not people please, they do not negotiate disrespect, they do not betray themselves to maintain connection. This nervous system becomes magnetic. People trust those who trust themselves. 6. The spiritual dimension of boundary maturity. Your boundaries are a spiritual contract with yourself. They are vows you make to your soul. I will not abandon you again. I will not let the world exhaust you. I will not allow love to come at the cost of your self-worth. I will not sacrifice your peace for approval. I will not shrink to protect someone else's comfort. Boundary maturity is spiritual sovereignty. It is the moment your spirit decides, I choose me. Now that you understand boundary maturity, not as reaction but as architecture, we move into a deeper layer of becoming unshakable, because boundaries protect your energy, but detachment protects your peace. Chapter 5. The Science of Detachment. Detachment is one of the most advanced spiritual and emotional skills you will ever master. Most people misunderstand it. They think detachment means not caring, not feeling, being cold, being indifferent, withdrawing out of fear, rejecting connection. But true detachment is none of these things. Detachment is energetic freedom. Detachment is the ability to stay grounded regardless of who stays, who leaves, who loves, who disappoints, who misunderstands, who chooses you, who chooses differently. Detachment is emotional clarity. Detachment is spiritual neutrality. Detachment is inner authority. It is the art of staying connected to life without becoming entangled in outcomes. 1. What detachment is, the cleanest definition. Detachment is, I can love you without losing myself. I can care deeply without collapsing. I can be present without gripping. I can desire without desperation. I can hope without needing. I can give without overgiving. I can receive without expectation. I can walk away without hatred. I can stay without fear. I can let go without losing peace. Detachment is freedom from emotional codependency, the liberation of your nervous system. 2. Attachment versus detachment, the architecture of peace. Attachment says, I need things to go this way for me to feel okay. Detachment says, I will feel okay regardless of how things go. Attachment contracts. Detachment expands. Attachment grasps, detachment observes. Attachment fears loss. Detachment trusts alignment. Attachment tries to control outcomes. Detachment aligns with outcomes. Detachment does not make you cold, it makes you clear. 3. The 3 layers of detachment. To become unshakable, you must master detachment on 3 levels: emotional, energetic, identity. Emotional detachment, feeling without fusing. Emotional detachment is not emotional avoidance, it is emotional boundaries. It is feeling the emotion fully without becoming the emotion. You can feel sadness without collapsing into despair. You can feel disappointment without falling into self-blame. You can feel fear without spiraling. You can feel love without self-abandonment. Emotional detachment is the ability to say, "This feeling is here, but it is not me." Energetic detachment, breaking the invisible cords. Energetic attachment happens when you overthink someone, absorb their emotions, let your mood depend on their behavior, feel responsible for their happiness, replay conversations trying to fix them, lose peace when they pull away, or collapse when they're inconsistent. Energetic detachment returns you to yourself. It is the art of removing your energy from places that drain you, not through anger, through clarity. I release you from my nervous system. I return my energy back to my field. I reclaim my emotional space. Identity detachment, the highest form. Identity attachment sounds like, if they leave, I'm unworthy. If I fail, I'm inadequate. If they're upset, I'm wrong. If something goes wrong, I'm unsafe. Identity detachment breaks this. I am worthy even if I'm misunderstood. I am safe even if plans shift. I am enough even when alone. I am whole even without validation. I am grounded even in uncertainty. Identity detachment is spiritual sovereignty. Nothing external gets to define your internal truth. 4. Detachment from outcomes, the end of emotional gripping. This is where most people struggle. They grip onto how things should unfold, how people should behave, how timing should work, how opportunities should arrive. Gripping creates anxiety. Detachment says, if it is aligned, it will stay. If it is mine, it cannot be lost. If it leaves, it was never meant to anchor me. Detachment is the end of emotional scarcity. 5th, detachment in relationships, the purest love. People think detachment kills intimacy, but the opposite is true. Detachment creates real connection because it removes fear, wounds, control, dependency, emotional pressure, expectation, and neediness. Detached love says, I choose you, but I don't need you to be whole. 6. The nervous system of a detached person. When someone masters detachment, their nervous system becomes steady, open, grounded, non-reactive, clear, calm, confident. They are not shaken by delays, disappointments, misunderstandings, withdrawals, rejection, silence, uncertainty, because their peace is not external, it is internal. Now that you understand detachment, not as avoidance but as emotional liberation, we move into the structure that determines every decision, every relationship, and every vibration you carry: self-trust. Chapter 6. The mechanics of self-trust. Self-trust is the spine of an unshakable life. Without self-trust, you second-guess yourself, collapse under pressure, tolerate what hurts, lose your voice, mistrust your intuition, fear making the wrong choice, doubt your worth, abandon your needs, and follow fear instead of wisdom. Self-trust is the internal authority that stabilizes everything: your emotions, decisions, boundaries, relationships, vibration, path, identity. When you trust yourself, you become unstoppable. 1. What self-trust actually means. Self-trust is not confidence, not bravery, not arrogance. Self-trust is, I believe in my ability to handle whatever comes. I believe in my inner wisdom. I believe in my perceptions. I believe in my intuition. I believe in my resilience. I believe I will not abandon myself again. I believe I can be relied upon by my own spirit. 2. The 3 roots of self-trust. True self-trust is built on integrity, intuition, and inner stability. Integrity, keeping your word to yourself. Self-trust collapses when you betray yourself. Every time you say, I won't go back, but you do. I won't tolerate this, but you tolerate it. I'll rest, but you keep pushing. I'll speak up, but you stay silent. I'll leave, but you stay for potential. I'll choose myself, but you abandon your needs. Your subconscious learns, my voice is not reliable. Rebuilding self-trust begins with one rule. I do not break promises to myself. Not because it's easy, because it's sacred. Intuition, the highest intelligence you possess. Your intuition is your soul speaking through your nervous system. It tells you, this isn't right, this person isn't safe, this opportunity is aligned, this situation feels draining, this connection feels nourishing. Most people override intuition because they want to avoid conflict, fear loss, attach to potential, want to be liked, don't trust themselves, minimize red flags, hope for change, or confuse chemistry with compatibility. Self-trust restores the authority of your inner voice. Inner stability, the end of outside dependence. Self-trust means you no longer outsource your decisions, worth, intuition, clarity, emotional regulation, or identity. Inner stability says, I choose my truth over your approval. I choose my path over your expectations. I choose my well-being over your comfort. I choose my alignment over your reaction. This is sovereignty. 3. Self-trust in real-life scenarios. Scenario 1. Decisions. I will not delay my life waiting for certainty. I choose and I adapt. Scenario 2. Relationships. If this requires self-abandonment, it is not aligned. Scenario 3. Opportunities. If it resonates, it's for me. If it collapses, it wasn't. Scenario 4. Conflict. I can speak truth without fear. Scenario 5. Uncertainty. I can walk through the unknown without losing myself. 4. The self-trust breakers. People-pleasing, over-explaining, ignoring intuition, staying in misaligned relationships, seeking approval, avoiding difficult decisions, overthinking instead of acting, choosing comfort over truth, fearing your own power. 5. The self-trust builders. Honor your intuition instantly. Follow through on internal commitments. Say no when your body contracts. Say yes when your spirit expands. Leave situations that drain you. Stop seeking external validation. Choose the aligned path, not the easy path. Trust your emotional feedback. Act even when afraid. Rest when your nervous system asks. Hold your boundaries with consistency. Every time you choose yourself, your self-trust strengthens. 6. The spiritual dimension of self-trust. Self-trust is a spiritual reunion. The moment your soul believes, you will no longer abandon me. The moment your inner child believes, you protect me now. The moment your higher self believes, you are aligned with truth. The moment your nervous system believes, we are safe. Self-trust is not taught, it is remembered. Now that you've built the foundations of emotional intelligence, energetic sovereignty, identity stability, boundary maturity, detachment, and self-trust, you are ready to enter the next dimension of becoming unshakable. Spiritual anchoring and vibrational congruence. Chapter 7. Spiritual anchoring. Now that your emotional world is regulated, your energetic field is sovereign, your identity is stabilized, your boundaries are mature, your detachment is embodied, and your self-trust is restored, we move into the dimension that holds everything together, Spiritual anchoring, because emotional strength helps you survive the moment. Energetic mastery helps you navigate environments. Identity alignment helps you choose your path. But spiritual anchoring helps you endure what makes no sense. It grounds you when logic fails. It holds you when life stretches you. It stabilizes you in the unseen. Spiritual anchoring is the silent architecture beneath your entire existence. 1. What spiritual anchoring really means. Spiritual anchoring is not religion. It is not blind optimism. It is not bypassing. It is not denial. It is not everything happens for a reason. Spiritual anchoring is, I trust the deeper intelligence guiding my life even when the evidence isn't here yet. It is certainty without proof, direction without map, peace without clarity, bravery without guarantees. Spiritual anchoring is the only force strong enough to keep you grounded when everything external is shaking. 2. The 3 levels of spiritual anchoring. There are 3 anchors that form the core of an unshakable soul. Anchor 1, protection. Anchor 2, guidance. Anchor 3, alignment. Let's deepen each one. Anchor 1, protection, the calm of a guarded destiny. Spiritual protection is the recognition that nothing meant for your destruction will reach you. Nothing meant to break you will be permitted. Nothing aligned with fear can override what is aligned with your truth. Nothing sent by chaos can penetrate a spiritually held field. Protection is not the promise of a painless life. Protection is the promise that nothing will happen outside of what your soul can overcome, transform, or rise through. Spiritual protection steadies your heartbeat when the world changes suddenly. It reminds you, I am safe in a way the human mind cannot comprehend. Anchor 2, guidance, the path that unfolds for you. Spiritual guidance is the intelligence behind your intuition. It is the whisper that says, go left, wait here, not now. This is yours. Let this go. Don't force this. Trust what you feel. Most people hear guidance but don't trust it. They override it with logic, fear, overthinking, or attachment. But when you are spiritually anchored, you trust the nudge more than the noise. Guidance is what moves you effortlessly into alignment, because what is aligned always feels like truth in your body. Anchor 3, alignment, where destiny and decision meet. Alignment is the highest anchor. It is the recognition that when something is meant for you, it will not require self-betrayal. When a path is yours, your spirit will expand walking it. When a connection is aligned, your nervous system will relax in it. When an opportunity is destined, it will open with congruence, not force. Spiritual anchoring simplifies your entire life. If it destabilizes you, it is not aligned. If it contracts you, it is not aligned. If it confuses your spirit, it is not aligned. If it weakens your intuition, it is not aligned. If it requires abandoning yourself, it is not aligned. What is aligned always supports your becoming. 3. Spiritual anchoring during uncertainty. This is where anchoring becomes real. When you feel lost, when life feels delayed, when things fall apart unexpectedly, when people shift, when timing changes, when plans collapse, when outcomes refuse to arrive, anchoring says, nothing is wrong, nothing is off track, nothing is missing, something is being rearranged. The unshakable soul does not panic when things slow down. It understands that pauses are precursors to elevation. Spiritual anchoring teaches you to breathe through the unknown instead of fearing it. 4. The nervous system of a spiritually anchored person. They are not rushed. They are not desperate. They are not easily manipulated. They are not controlled by fear. They are not shaken by delays. They are not defined by outcomes. Their peace is internal. Their clarity is intuitive. Their direction is guided. Their identity is secure. Their path is sovereign. Their energy is protected. A spiritually anchored person carries a calm that feels like truth. Now that you are anchored at the spiritual level, we enter the final energetic architecture that completes your becoming, vibrational congruence, the alignment between who you are internally and what you allow externally. Let's go deeper. Chapter 8, Vibrational Congruence. Vibrational congruence is one of the most transformative forces in your entire evolution. It is the principle that says your outer life must match your inner truth. And until it does, you will feel resistance, friction, heaviness, or emotional dissonance. Vibrational congruence is the alignment between your standards and your behavior, your values and your relationships, your worth and your choices, your intuition and your actions, your identity and your environment, your words and your energy. An unshakable life is built on congruence, not effort. Let's build it layer by layer. 1. What vibrational congruence actually means. Congruence is when your boundaries reflect your worth, your relationships reflect your identity, your choices reflect your values, your lifestyle reflects your vision, your actions reflect your intuition, your environment reflects your evolution. Misalignment feels like pain, congruence feels like peace. When your life matches who you are becoming, everything flows. 2. The 3 dimensions of congruence. Congruence must be embodied through internal congruence, relational congruence, and environmental congruence. Let's deepen each one. Internal congruence, the alignment of self with self. This is when your inner world matches itself. No mixed signals, no self-abandonment, no internal contradictions. Internal congruence means you feel what you feel without shame. You choose what aligns without guilt. You hold boundaries without negotiation. You honor intuition without seeking permission. You rest when your body asks. You speak truth even when your voice shakes. You leave when your spirit says leave. Internal congruence is self-honoring. It is the end of internal conflict. Relational congruence, love that matches your vibration. Relational congruence is when your relationships match your identity. It is the moment you realize, I cannot keep relationships that contradict the person I am becoming. Congruent relationships feel like safety, reciprocity, respect, clarity, ease, emotional maturity, energetic balance, mutual responsibility, clean communication, aligned values. A relationship can be passionate, intense, or familiar, and still not be congruent. Congruence is not chemistry. Congruence is compatibility with your highest self. Environmental congruence, the spaces that hold your growth. Your environment either stabilizes your frequency or destabilizes it. Environmental congruence means you no longer stay in places that shrink you. You no longer tolerate dynamics that exhaust you. You no longer keep friendships that drain you. You no longer engage spaces that hold old versions of you. Your environment must reflect your elevation. This is not about perfection. It is about resonance. 3. The pain of misalignment. Why you feel what you feel. Misalignment feels like anxiety, confusion, resentment, irritation, fatigue, overthinking, internal conflict, emotional heaviness, because your spirit is saying, I no longer belong here. Your nervous system registers vibrational mismatch long before your mind does. Congruence returns you to inner peace. 4. The courage of congruence, the part most people avoid. Congruence requires sacrifice. It requires letting go of stories, old identities, people you've outgrown, environments that trigger old versions of you, patterns that feel familiar, comfort zones that feel safe, relationships built on potential. Most people abandon congruence because it asks for honesty. But once you choose congruence, you never return to self-betrayal. 5. The freedom of a congruent life. When your vibration and your life match, everything begins to flow. Clarity, peace, certainty, alignment, magnetism, purpose, emotional stability, opportunities, healthy relationships, clean boundaries. You stop chasing, you stop forcing, you stop craving, you stop collapsing, you stop overthinking. Your life becomes a mirror of your identity. Now that your emotional architecture, your energy, your identity, your boundaries, your detachment, your self-trust, your spiritual anchoring, and your vibrational congruence are all aligned, we reach the final pillar of becoming unshakable, integration. Everything you've become must now become a lifestyle. Let's close your architecture. Chapter 9. The integration of the unshakable self. You have built something extraordinary within yourself. You've become emotionally intelligent, energetically sovereign, identity stable, boundary mature, detached without being cold, self-trusting, spiritually anchored, vibrationally aligned. But becoming unshakable does not end with understanding these pillars. It ends with living them. Integration is the embodiment of everything you've learned. It is the moment your inner architecture becomes your lived reality. It is the moment you no longer have to remember who you are. You simply are it. 1. What integration actually means. Integration is not perfection. It is consistency. It is the daily practice of choosing peace over panic, truth over comfort, alignment over attachment, self-respect over approval, embodiment over theory, wisdom over reaction, energy over obligation, intuition over fear, identity over impulse. Integration is when your inner transformation shows up in your behavior. 2. The 3 domains of integration. To fully embody the unshakable self, you must integrate at 3 levels: integration of identity, integration of behavior, and integration of frequency. Let's deepen each one. Identity integration, when your new self becomes permanent. Identity integration is when you no longer tolerate what your old self tolerated, no longer crave what your old self craved, no longer fear what your old self feared, no longer choose what your old self chose, no longer return to habits that weaken you, no longer abandon yourself to feel loved, no longer shrink to be accepted. Your new identity becomes your default vibration. This is the true meaning of transformation. Behavioral integration, your actions match your wisdom. Behavioral integration is where most people fail, not because they don't understand, but because they don't practice. Integration means your boundaries remain intact, your detachment remains clean, your self-trust remains active, your decisions remain aligned, your communication remains grounded, your energy remains protected, your standards remain consistent, your intuition remains your compass. Integration is the discipline of becoming. Frequency, integration, holding your vibration under pressure. The final stage of becoming unshakable is frequency integration, the ability to remain grounded when misunderstood, calm when triggered, clear when pressured, self-trusting when doubted, aligned when tempted, anchored when uncertain. Frequency integration is the mastery of holding your vibration no matter what the world is doing. This is the hallmark of an unshakable life. 3. The tests of integration. Life will check your foundation. Every evolution comes with a test, not to punish you, but to solidify you. The tests will look like old patterns returning, old people resurfacing, old insecurities whispering, old wounds reactivating, old fears echoing, old habits tempting, old cycles calling you back. These are not setbacks. These are confirmations of your growth. You do not fail integration by being tested. You fail by becoming the old self again. Your job is not to be perfect. It is to remain aligned. 4. The signature of an integrated soul. A fully integrated, unshakable soul carries a specific frequency. It sounds like clarity, truth, calm, certainty, presence, honesty, self-respect, and a deep, unmistakable groundedness. They move differently. They speak differently. They choose differently. They love differently. They walk differently. They respond differently. They hold themselves differently. They do not need validation. They do not fear rejection. They do not chase potential. They do not collapse under pressure. They do not betray themselves for connection. They do not dilute themselves to be loved. Integration is self-loyalty embodied. 5. The final evolution. You become the architect of your life. Once integrated, you stop living from reaction and start living from creation. You become the designer of your peace, the protector of your energy, the curator of your relationships, the author of your identity, the steward of your vibration, the guardian of your boundaries, the master of your emotional world, the conductor of your intuition, the creator of your destiny. You stop waiting for life to shift. Life begins shifting for you. You stop begging for alignment. You become alignment. You stop fearing uncertainty. You're guided through it. You stop seeking permission. You embody authority. You stop doubting your worth. You live from it. This is the architecture of the unshakable self. You did not become unshakable by becoming harder. You became unshakable by becoming whole, emotionally, energetically, psychologically, spiritually, vibrationally, identity-wise, practically, relationally, internally. You built a life from the inside out, and now you stand in your truth, rooted, clear, sovereign, aligned, unshakable. Epilogue, the return to self. There comes a moment after all the breaking, after all the rebuilding, after all the unlearning, after all the remembering, where you finally meet yourself. Not the self shaped by survival, not the self bent by fear, not the self dimmed by expectation, not the self contorted by old wounds, not the self that lived to be chosen, not the self that lived to be understood, not the self that lived to be tolerated, but the self you were before life taught you to shrink, the self that breathes with clarity, the self that moves with purpose, the self that stands without trembling, the self that trusts without evidence, the self that walks without seeking permission, the self that loves without losing shape, the self that is whole even when alone, the self that knows, I am enough because I am. This is the return to an identity that cannot be shaken by circumstance, the return to a truth that cannot be diluted by opinion, the return to a wholeness that cannot be undone by rejection, the return to a peace that no longer negotiates for space, the return to a soul that remembers its own power. The journey you have walked through these chapters was never about becoming someone new. It was about reclaiming the one you were always meant to be. You peeled away the layers of emotional noise. You cleared the energetic debris. You interrupted generational patterns. You dissolved attachment wounds. You restored boundaries. You healed your nervous system. You recalibrated your identity. You anchored your spirit. You aligned your vibration. You did the work most people avoid because they fear what they may find inside themselves. But you found strength. You found clarity. You found grounding. You found sovereignty. You found truth. You found self-respect. You found peace. You found yourself. And this is the deepest truth of all. You were never meant to navigate life as a fragile being. You were meant to navigate it as a conscious creator, a sovereign presence, a regulated force, a grounded identity, a spiritually anchored soul, a vibrational match to your desires, an architect of your own destiny. Becoming unshakable does not mean life will stop moving. It means you stop collapsing when it does. It means you rise without rushing. You respond without reacting. You choose without fearing. You love without losing yourself. You detach without closing your heart. You speak truth without trembling. You walk away without breaking. You honor yourself without apology. You hold boundaries without explanation. You make decisions without overthinking. You trust intuition without external validation. You move forward without external permission. This is spiritual adulthood. This is emotional sovereignty. This is energetic intelligence. This is identity alignment. This is vibrational mastery. This is integration. This is what makes you unshakable. You are no longer shaped by old patterns. You are no longer guided by old wounds. You are no longer defined by old stories. You are no longer held hostage by old fears. You are no longer loyal to old versions of yourself. You have stepped into a new architecture, one built on truth, power, presence, and self-honoring. There is nothing fragile about you. There is nothing accidental about you. There is nothing small about you. There is nothing missing in you. There is nothing weak in your becoming. You are whole. You are grounded. You are sovereign. You are aligned. You are complete. You are home. And now you rise, not because you need to prove anything, not because you fear falling, not because you seek recognition, but because rising is your nature. Your unshakability does not come from resisting life. It comes from embodying truth. This is the final architecture. You are no longer living from reaction. You are living from consciousness. You are living from alignment. You are living from sovereignty. You are living from your higher self. This is your return. This is your arrival. This is your becoming. And from here forward, you do not break. You expand.